Let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're exploring how generative AI is completely transforming video game characters, from robotic, scripted puppets into dynamic, thinking digital citizens. I mean, for decades, the characters we met in games were essentially just beautiful cardboard cutouts. But what happens when they actually start listening to us?
To really appreciate this leap, we have to look back for a second. If you played games like Fable back in 2004, you definitely know the drill. You'd walk up to a villager and get the exact same four static options. Hello, goodbye, trade, information. And you'd hear that same soulless voice line. Nice weather today, isn't it? Literally hundreds of times, even if you had just saved the entire world. Now contrast that incredibly repetitive static experience with the wildly dynamic reality we're seeing in 2026 with games like Sword of Justice. Now conversations are happening in real time, and they are completely unscripted.
The moment this really hit the mainstream and honestly broke the internet was in January 2026. A player in Sword of Justice decided to lie to a female non-playable character, or NPC, about where he'd been. He wasn't doing it to complete a quest, he just wanted to test the system. The character paused, and it was this natural human-feeling pause, and then she responded with genuine anger. "You're lying. I know where you were." That clip went incredibly viral, because for the very first time, an NPC actually understood deception.
Section 1. How AI characters work. Let's peel back the layers here and look at the brains behind the magic. The secret sauce making all this possible revolves around large language models, which is similar to the tech behind advanced chatbots. A really core concept here is the context window. Think of it simply as an AI model's short-term memory. It functions just like RAM does for a computer or even the human brain. Basically, the larger the context window, the more the character remembers from your previous interactions. It allows these digital characters to recall exactly what you just said or did without a developer ever needing to script a single line of it.
So here's how these three layers actually work together in real time. First, you have natural language understanding, which allows the game to actually comprehend your typed or spoken sentence. Second, it does a long-term memory check. It cross-references what you just said against its database of your past actions and your trust scores. And finally, dynamic personality creation filters the response. So if you tell a lie, a trusting merchant might just say, maybe I was mistaken. But a paranoid town guard, they might yell, "You're lying, I saw you last night." Moving on to Section 2, Digital Citizens and the Creation of Truly Living Game Worlds. This is where things get really cool, taking us from static background characters to actual digital citizens. Traditional characters used to just stand around and fix loops with zero memory of who you were. But AI NPCs, it's a whole different ballgame. Take a character like, say, Mary the Baker. She bakes in the morning, goes to the market at noon to complain about tomato prices, and visits her friends at night. In these modern games, this persistent world continues even when you log off. Your NPC friends might literally start businesses with each other while you're away from your keyboard. But let's be real, reading text on a screen isn't enough for true immersion. They need a voice. In the past, automated voices sounded super robotic. But the revolution we saw between 2025 and 2026 introduced dynamic emotion text-to-speech. Services like 11 Labs and Replica Studios dynamically generate emotional voice acting on the fly. If the AI character is scared, you will hear their voice physically tremble. If they're angry, they shout. And the crazy part? This is all generated in real time for a fraction of what traditional AAA studios used to spend on voice recording.
Section 3. Industry redefined. Because it's not just the games that are changing, it's how they are fundamentally built. And the industry is moving incredibly fast on this. According to the 2026 Game Developers Conference State of the Industry report, a massive 54% of game studios are already implementing or experimenting with AI NPCs. That means over half the entire industry is actively building this tech into their upcoming titles right now.
And the financial backing? Staggering. In 2025 alone, we saw $5.5 billion in global investment pour into AI gaming tech. Why? Simple scalability. Think about a massive game like Skyrim back in 2011. It cost millions to write and record 60,000 lines of static dialogue. With AI, studios realize they can offer infinite dynamic dialogue for literally cents per conversation. It completely flips the economics of game development upside down.
Section 4, Technical Hurdles. Now, to be totally impartial in this explainer, we have to look at the unsolved challenges too. It's not all magic. Developers are actively fighting some really tough problems. The absolute biggest immersion killer right now is latency. Here's what that journey looks like. Your text goes to a cloud server,
The language model generates a response, the text-to-speech creates the audio, and finally it plays back to you. This whole round trip takes an average of 2 to 5 seconds. Think about that. In a natural conversation, a 5-second pause is incredibly awkward. This is exactly why the industry is pushing so hard for local AI models that can run directly on your own home hardware to just cut the cloud out entirely. Then we have the infamous AI hallucination. This is when an AI just confidently generates contextually incorrect information. Imagine you are deeply immersed in a gritty medieval fantasy game, and a blacksmith suddenly tells you about a hilarious TikTok video he watched last night. Yeah, it completely breaks the game. So studios absolutely have to build strict guardrails to prevent these game-breaking PR disasters. But the catch is, every guardrail you place on the AI also limits its natural creativity. Plus, the hardware strain of running a simulated city is immense. If a game has 1,000 NPCs all thinking and reacting at the exact same time, the servers would literally melt. So the current industry compromise is something called tiered intelligence. It's a hierarchy. Tier 1 main characters get the full AI treatment with long-term memory. Tier 2 vendors get simple short-term memory. And Tier 3 random pedestrians, they remain traditionally scripted. It gives you the illusion of a fully living world without crashing the system. Section 5, the sentient future. Let's look at what's coming next and the predictions for 2030 and beyond. The forecast here is truly wild. By 2030, we're expecting to see AI NPCs in nearly all AAA role-playing games. We'll likely see the dominance of local AI models running right on future graphics cards. But more incredibly, we are expecting the emergence of sentient, emotional NPCs. Imagine characters that use sentiment analysis to literally comfort you if your voice sounds sad through the mic. We're also seeing the birth of living novel games. This is an entirely new genre where the story is co-created with the AI in real time. No pre-written script whatsoever. All of this forces a total shift in game design philosophy. Traditional games relied really heavily on hand-holding, following a glowing marker on a map from point A to point B. But AI game design, that focuses on emergent gameplay. You have to actually converse with characters, extract clues, and genuinely investigate. You aren't just following a waypoint anymore. You might actually have to ask around a tavern to find out where a suspicious merchant hangs out. It's genuine, earned discovery. However, objectively speaking, we have to acknowledge the serious ethical dilemmas this creates. Psychologists are raising very real concerns about players, especially teenagers, forming deep emotional attachments to software that, at the end of the day, can be shut down by a server admin. There are also massive data privacy questions about where all your intimate conversational data is being stored. Plus, there's the incredibly high risk of players creating deep-fake custom NPCs using the voices and faces of real people without permission. The industry is actively scrambling to establish safety teams for these exact issues. Which brings us to the core dilemma of this entire revolution. Think about it. If a digital character becomes complex enough to remember your past, understand your current struggles, and dynamically speak to you with a tone of genuine emotional comfort, what really is the difference between a virtual character and a real friend? It's a question that goes far beyond game design, and it's one we are all going to have to answer very soon. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the reality of the worlds you play in.